Osaka is an interesting regional city. Being from Cork myself, I kind of know the attitude that the second city usually has in Ireland, and I suspect that's similar in Osaka. So really looking forward tonight to hearing from Andy O Doherty, who's based in Osaka, and Tom O Neill as well, who's based in Osaka. But before we hear from Andy and Tom, we'll have some opening remarks from the ambassador. So I'll hand over now to Ambassador Paul Kavanagh for opening remarks. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Pat. And dear President, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really delighted to join you for this evening's webinar. I really do enjoy getting out of Tokyo from time to time, even when it is a virtual excursion. I again congratulate the Ireland-Japan Chamber of Commerce for this innovative series of events, Tales from the Regions. This series is a real innovation that has facilitated online engagement right across Japan of businesses, individuals, institutions, and local authorities. The Chamber has excelled during the pandemic. It has been a prolific producer of interesting online activities and output, which have proved to be of significant practical use to people engaged in business and to those in the wider community. Let me encourage individuals, companies, and institutions based in Osaka and in the broad Kansai region to engage with the Chamber. It has a range of substantive and relevant committees. It is the fastest growing European chamber in Japan, and it has a dynamic, not to mention good-looking, board. Its membership, individual and corporate, has grown by about a quarter in the past year. So do try to get involved. Ladies and gentlemen, relations and exchanges between Ireland and Japan are close and vibrant. In particular, trade and investment ties are robust. These are growing and were growing vigorously prior to the pandemic. And they've been showing considerable resilience in the past 18 months. Official Irish statistics indicate that two-way trade between Ireland and Japan in goods and services combined reached 13.8 billion euros in 2019, the most recent calendar year for which we have full figures. This was 2.5 times total trade between Japan and Sweden in that year. It was fully 40% of Japan-UK trade in the same period. In 2020, meanwhile, the pandemic year, indigenous Irish companies supported by Enterprise Ireland grew their exports to Japan by about 5%. And this is when they were stagnant in the region and globally. When it comes to Osaka, you will have seen that one of Ireland's flagship life sciences firms, Icon PLC, has recently acquired PRA Healthcare. This will have a significant impact in Japan. Founded in 1995 in Dublin, Icon is, among other things, one of the world's top clinical trials companies. It already has a major presence in Tokyo, and now it will absorb the significant PRA units in Osaka. We are very much looking forward to seeing this new global partnership flourish over the coming years, now in Osaka as well as Tokyo. As to inward foreign direct investment into Ireland, FDI, Japan, as you know, continues to be the #1 source in the Asia-Pacific region in terms of the scale and quality of employment created in Ireland. With support from IDA Ireland, the Kansai region is an important source of FDI for us. For example, Nipro employs about 150 people in Galway, in R&D and in the manufacture of PTCA catheters, balloons and stents. Fujikin employs 90 people in Waterford, also in R&D and in the manufacture of high-precision valves. Andy will touch on this later, I think. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our embassy's regional outreach to Osaka and Kansai has been affected by the pandemic and its consequences. Advanced plans for a programmed visit of ours to you have had to be put on extended hold on more than one occasion in the past 18 months due to states of emergency and other anti-coronavirus related measures. Nonetheless, with the lifting later this week of the current state of emergency, the COVID curtain just may, at long last, be starting to lift. For my part, and accompanied by the embassy's very estimable economic councillor, David Murphy, I now plan to visit Osaka in the second half of October, and we're very much looking forward to it. I intended to be the first of several. We have reasons to want to increase and deepen Ireland's outreach to Osaka and Kansai intensively and progressively over the extended period ahead. Not least because Osaka will host Expo 2025. The question of Ireland's participation in this global event of signal importance is a matter for government at home. At the embassy in Tokyo, we are contributing to the briefing of government at home in Ireland in advance of any such decision. In this regard, a very positive online meeting between Ministers Coveney and Minister Inoue in charge of Expo took place some time ago. By the time Expo 2025 comes more closely into view, our plan is that Ireland should have built up in the meantime a richer and stronger network of relations and exchanges with this great city and with Kansai region. I hope that the Chamber, senior representative in Osaka, Andy O Doherty, will play a role in support of this multi-year project. And let me say that I very much look forward to hearing further from Andy and from other speakers this evening. Ireland has not yet decided if it will participate in Expo 2025 Osaka. But if we do decide to do so, then our participation may draw on our experience of participating in Expo 2020 Dubai, which opens in 2 days' time. Let me encourage you to search on the web for Ireland at Expo Dubai. I am certain you will be enthralled by what you see and hear there. Lastly, let me look forward to, hopefully, a more normal St. Patrick's Day festival in 2022. Here in Osaka, there were some very impressive greenings this past March. We hope to see more of this in 2022. On such felicitous notes, let me conclude and thank you again, President Tsuchiya of the Chamber, for your hospitality. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you for your ongoing support, and to David as well for supporting us as well and reaching out to many of the regional areas in Japan. I think after, as you mentioned, after the COVID restrictions are lifted, and in particular next year, we're hoping to follow up this series of events with some in-person events in the different regions. So we look forward to working with you and Team Ireland overall in extending the outreach to the regional areas. As you say, it's particularly exciting to have Expo 2025 on the horizon, and the Chamber as well has the largest number of regional members in quite a while. We also have about 200 JET participants around the country who we're engaging with now, I suppose, who are going to be the future of Irish in Japan as I suppose as the chamber membership grows. So look forward to ongoing support, and thank you very much for your words tonight, Ambassador. So without further ado, we'll hand over to the men on the ground in Osaka. We have Andy O Doherty and we have Tom O Neill. So Andy, whenever you're ready, you can hand over to you and you can share your presentation. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Ambassador Kavanagh. Time is short, so I'm going to move through a lot of slides tonight. My name's Andy. I've been here 8 years now in Osaka, and previously before that it's 4 years Tokyo, 3 years Mie and Aichi. So I'm not claiming to be an expert on Osaka, but I mean I could compare to other regions, and I've been around a bit of Japan, but I put a few slides together, and thanks to Enterprise Ireland, IDA Ireland, Greg Timmons from Takeda and Hideki Mimura from Yokohama as well, that they helped me put a few slides together here tonight. So not going too much general about Osaka, just a brief, and then more of the really Ireland relations between Osaka. So I'll just go through a bit, I mean, the history of the connections, which you might be surprised to hear a few things I think most people probably wouldn't have heard of before. Companies that have connections with Osaka and Ireland. Ambassador Kavanagh mentioned a few. And then the Irish business that everybody can see in front of them, Irish Pubs. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Tom, I might have a few comments from a punter's perspective, but Tom, from somebody who's been running Irish Pubs in Osaka for a long time, will have a few more deep words, and if he has anything about generally Osaka as well. Then just quickly, briefly at the end, Ireland's related groups and associations here, and a few quick comments at the end about upcoming topics generally in Osaka. And then I'll hand back to, for question and answers, or any comments if somebody thinks I've missed something here, or if anything's worth mentioning, and then back to Suchis then. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm working with a company called H&K International, the country manager here. So I'll talk a bit about that later on. We're based in Osaka. Okay, move on. So just a quick overview, as we know, I mean, it's economic center of Kansai. Obviously, Hyogo, Ken, Kobe, and Kyoto are very big parts to play at Kansai as well. I'm trying to stick tonight to Osaka. For many companies, it's the business gateway to West Japan. A lot of people to manage their West Japan operations, they set up here. We all know Panasonic, Sharp, Suntory. They can be seen their products can be seen everywhere in Ireland. Their headquarters are here. A lot of other corporations and financial manufacturing have started in Osaka, and for various mergers or other reasons they may have moved headquarters elsewhere. But a lot of big names have been through here. Various big industries, manufacturing, pharmaceutical, too numerous to mention really. Then I think we know Osaka as well. I mean, it's a pinch of salt, but you see these global livable city indexes. I mean, usually these lists usually feature Tokyo and Osaka in the top 10. Sometimes recently Osaka coming above Tokyo. I suppose you know, it's a nice compact city. It's easy to get around. Apartments are, comparative to Tokyo anyway, they're probably usually a little bit bigger. So there's a lot of good things about Osaka. We don't have so much of a chamber of commerce scene down here, but you know, hopefully we can try and change that a bit more after COVID settles down. Tourism, yeah, it's, as I say, it's a compact, large city. Really the low-cost airlines have really picked up the last few years, especially with upgrades in Itami Airport and Kansai airports. great shopping, nightlife, and the Universal Studios is here as well. Great base for Kansai tourism. Kyoto, Wakayama, Issei, Kobe, Hiroshima. So it's an ideal spot for people coming to Japan. I think as of 2 years ago, it was the #1 spot in Japan for other Asian visitors. It was just getting so popular with the low-cost airlines and shopping, and there's just so much in the city there. But that's just an overview. I'll get into the Ireland-related topics now. Just keeping an eye on time. So this is just for the earlier topics. I think I've all heard of Thomas Waters, who designed Ginza, and but before he did that, he was involved in designing the Mint here, the image on the left here, which very similar to some building in the south of Dublin City, which he would have been inspired by. So that would have been one of the earlier ones. Then just in this middle photo, this would have been the pavilion of the Osaka, Ireland, the World Expo in 1970 in Osaka, just north of the city. It's the same deal as what would have been in the 2005 Expo in Aichi, and as I understand the plan for the 2025 Expo in Osaka again as a 6-month event, a large park with pavilions from all over the world. As I understand, the embassy in Tokyo was established in 1973. So I guess maybe this is the first, although it was only temporary, it was the first kind of an Ireland house in Japan. It was really the first time for a lot of Japanese people to see Ireland. They could come in here and learn about Ireland. I think there was perhaps 60 million visitors, a record at the time. But it was the first real chance for a lot of Japanese people, and not just Osaka, but all around Japan, to come and explore and learn about Ireland. Then just these other photos here. I didn't know about this before I came down here, but I think we know that Ireland and Osaka both have a connection, that they have UNESCO World Heritage, ancient graves, passage tombs, and burial tombs. So these photos are in Osaka. This is, based on, there's a few plaques there, based on the burial tombs in Brunaboyna, New Grange. There's a plaque on a Gardine Erin that's there. This was set up for the Garden and Greeneries Expo in East Osaka in 1990. It's part of the same umbrella organization that would organize the World Expeditions as well. It was meant to be a really nice setup. There's this beehive foot here as well, that the plaque says it was based on Skellig Michael. Beehive Foot's the clock on, and it was meant to be a very nice affair. That there was a harpist here, similar, I think, for 6 months as well. The garden was a Children of Lear inspired garden. I heard the passage tomb. Actually, apparently, it's set up for the winter solstice as well. I haven't checked that myself, but that's what it claims. So that's just an interesting thing that isn't very well known about Osaka, that we have our own Irish garden here. Unfortunately, before you run down to it, the last few years, this doorway has been boarded up at the moment. So just a warning there. And that's probably about 30 minutes outside of Osaka City. It's actually held up pretty well. There's an expo for other countries. A lot of the other gardens have run into a bad state, but the Stone Irish Garden is still looking pretty well. Okay, go on to that. Yeah, then just quickly more recent. So the current Irish in Osaka, big mix of people, in education, teaching, universities. There's entrepreneurs. There's people that are doing value. Now, there's a lot of people here. They're doing a few different things, multitasking with a few different careers, engineers, IT, sales. It's very varied down here. Of course, for a lot of people in Kyushu and Shikoku, and their big weekend out might be with coming up to Osaka. So we got a lot of people that may actually move to Osaka afterwards. From there, I think I saw on a government website that it said there was 65 registered Zairyu cards in Osaka. Now I'd struggle to count to 20 of the people I know, but Tom probably could do better than me. But that's what I have. Yeah, but it's still a good community of guys, and we and ladies as well, and we know each other well. Then just more generally, so recent years, a lot of Japanese people in Osaka have a good knowledge, I think, of Ireland, and perhaps compared to other locations, particularly because of the two expos. The other big one is the first Irish pub in Japan. There was another some other earlier pubs in Japan and in Osaka. So that just really in an early brought the connections with Osaka and Ireland. And there's the other reasons that everybody's interested in Irish culture, and that's picked up. But just the expos and the pub presences help things along. Okay, well, that's just on the history. Yeah, I'll just go on then more. I think we're more on the business side of things now as well. Just to go through a few of the companies that are operating with Osaka Ireland connections. First, I think Takeda, they've been doing some fantastic investments in Ireland for a long time. So they have an Osaka and Tokyo headquarters at the moment. I think up until recently, they would Osaka would have been the main location, and they're very blooded here. They still have the center of global manufacturing and supply is in Osaka. Two major sites in Dublin, Wicklow, back home, employing hundreds of people, and continually investing in Ireland. For a lot of us now, we will hear about them a lot because of their involvement of vaccines as well, and the Moderna and the Novavax vaccine as well. So this is what we hear from them. Just a comment from Greg Timmons as well tonight. He apologizes he couldn't make it, but he's very looking forward to getting involved in more IJCC activities going forward. Then, as Ambassador Kavanagh mentioned, Fujikin, they have their branch in Waterford there that are, again, they're I think now they have a dual headquarters in Osaka and Tokyo, but they have a strong history in Osaka. They've brought a lot of young Irish engineers over here in the previous years. A recent president of the IJCC started off in Fujikin, Paul. And they have still a very strong connection there. I'm not sure the location for Waterford. Perhaps it's to support the pharmaceutical in Cork and the semiconductor in Kildare. I don't know, but they're very involved there. Again, as Ambassador Kavanagh mentioned, Nipro based here as well. A lot of people in Galway making medical supplies, cardiovascular devices, and implants there. So I'll move on there. Yeah, I'm not really doing justice to all these companies, but I know this is a lot to pack in. So Yeah, there you go. Just as well, you may not be aware of some of these companies, but IJCC Japan, for many years they've been doing international student exchange, particularly high school students, between Irish secondary schools and Japanese high schools. Very, very busy with that. Also, they're involved with some language activities as well, worth mentioning. And another one is Ireland House Hero. I think people in Tokyo would know them well for, they have a Irish gift shop in Kanda, near Kanda Station, previously Kichiyoji. I think they previously had 2 stores in Tokyo. They would also in Kansai and in Kanto, they'd be traveling around to department stores and events, putting up like pop-up Irish gift stores. So yeah, they're very worth mentioning. Of course, they've always been at the Isle of Ireland Festival every year. So please check them out. Hopefully, all things going well, they'll be there next year. And just a special mention. This isn't. I heard about this recently, but all these Ferris wheels that were lit up around Japan. This is a company, Senyo Kogyo, based in Osaka City. They have, they manage all these Ferris wheels. So I have to thank for them. I heard they've been very helpful with this. I'm delighted to support the St. Patrick's Day Festival. They're based here near Namba. And I suppose I have to mention that if you do make it down to Osaka, please do check out Toyoku if you need a place to stay. A very important partner to the IJCC. That was just in Japanese companies there. I'll go on to Irish companies now. I mean, more stronger ATA Tools award winners in the IJCC Business Awards recently. They have more established in Tokyo, but they recently set up a sales office in Osaka as their West Japan business is doing very well, based in County Cavan. Machine tools that they are doing for various different industries. A long time in a Japanese market. They've been here, so they just recently expanded their sales team here in Osaka. And again, as was mentioned by the ambassador at the start, ICON, they have had an office here in Osaka for a while, since there's so many pharmaceutical companies. But yes, this year they acquired PRA Health Services. So that's just really brought their footprint in Osaka up a lot. So yeah, it's quite interesting that an Irish company there. So that's a new development to mention. This is I thought this was worth mentioning. It's my own company. I'm biased, of course. We're an Irish company. We supply kitchen equipment to the food service industry. Total project management. We manufacture our own equipment and we bring in other equipment of other suppliers, and we sell packages of equipment to food service customers. 1,500 people worldwide. Most of these are in our factories. Customers include McDonald's, Burger King, Subway, Costco, and we have some of our equipment that is in these places in Japan. We've regularly winning global supplier of the year awards. Yeah, we do keep to a small amount of customers. We're not chasing Japanese customers at the moment. We're more supporting the global customers here in Japan. So in that way, we're kind of under the radar. We don't advertise so much. So a lot of people probably wouldn't have heard of us, but we're doing a lot of interesting work. Yeah, originally Canadian, started up 50 years ago. Started up originally then things were going well in Canada and the US, looking for a European hub. I heard some quick thinking IDA Ireland people helped set up the European office in 1978. And then in 2002, there was an Irish management buyout, so we've been Irish since then. We slowly worked our way all around the world, and Japan was one of the last markets for us to get involved in. 10 years ago, we started equipment supply and then set up our warehouse in Osaka in 2013. We were put in charge of the West Japan, and our competitor was in charge of the East Japan. So originally we set up in Kansai. It was the ideal spot to support the West Japan, but since 2018, we've been looking after all Japan and supplying to all prefectures. We've a staff of 20 now, an office in Osaka, and some warehousing. We've one main warehouse and feeder warehouses. We have had offices in Tokyo. For the different reasons, we closed down one a year and a half ago. When things settle down again, we hopefully to see what we can do to expand our business. We have been very busy with one of our customers, our main customer at the moment, and actually some of our equipment has been in national newspapers here in Japan. It's really helping our customer to get through COVID-19. Taking advantage of different consumer trends at the moment. We've made some interesting innovations specifically for Japan to help the capacity of customers' product get out to their customers. So globally we've had a lot of problems with COVID, but in Japan, we've been able to in some ways do well. It has been very, very challenging in other ways. We've been keeping very busy anyway. Okay, just check on the time there. Get to Tom. I was trying to get to Tom for 7:10. Just on Irish pubs, just a few quick comments. The first Irish pub in Japan, and one of the best, I think. Murphy's. I think many people who've been through Osaka through the years would have been through Murphy's. There's two main areas. A lot of pubs are huddled together. The Namba area and the Umeda area, or Namba Shinsaibashi area. For me, I think the standard of Irish pubs in Osaka is second to none. Really, from what I've seen, I've spent a lot of time in Tokyo, and not to put down Tokyo, but I think we get in trouble for this, but quality over quantity. The standard of pubs are very high everywhere in Japan, but I think it's exceptional in Osaka. Character in each location, a lot of chatty staff in most of the locations as well. Great live music in many of the locations. It's my own biased opinion, but I think one of the best beer gardens in Japan is in Osaka. I heard, I don't know if it counts, but the biggest Irish pub in Japan is in USJ. That was a few years ago. I'm not sure. It's been taken over by somewhere else now at the moment. It's I won't go into too much detail now, but if anybody ever makes it down to Osaka and they want some tips, I'm happy to give you a few comments as well. These are just the pubs I've lifted up here. The Murphy's, Tom will mention the Blarney Stone, there's Dublin Bay. The Temple Bar has been, I think, in Osaka from the 1990s as well. Galway, a whiskey bar, and this is kind of a rock Irish bar. Yeah, it's good. And Irish curry, very interesting. I don't know if I have it here, but I stumbled, if you can see the camera here, my camera, but I've come across this in a 7-Eleven, the Irish curry pack, instant curry pack. So it's an Irish pub restaurants that Guinness flavored curry, especially going out into some other things here as well. And then Finnegan's in the US. I'm not so familiar with it. These three more outside of the city, these pub Sheepdog, Kelthouse and Old Town. I'm sure they're great places. And just special mention is the Shaka Bar and the Hearth, which are co-managed by Irish people here in Osaka. Okay, 7-Eleven. Okay, I had 7. Yeah, Tom, I passed to you now. I was aiming to get to you for 7-10. Tom, if you want to go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Andy. Good evening, everybody. Ambassador, it's very nice to meet you and the other people that I've met here today. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you all. My name again is Tom O Neill. I'm from County Wicklow in Ireland, and I've been here for 30 years this year, yeah? A little bit unbelievable. My early life my life still is in the education. I teach in a university, and then of course I do the Blarney Stone as well. The picture that you had up a few minutes ago, Andy, yeah, Murphy's.
Yeah.
That handsome guy is my cousin. He's my youngest cousin. Yeah, so we keep the bar scene in the family here in Osaka. A little bit about the pub scene. The pub scene is a very good pub scene in Osaka. Again, you can find, very interesting Irish pubs. They're all sort of a little bit different. And again, to go in there and you can sort of always find somebody to talk to. And I think that's one of the things that attract people to the Irish pubs, because it's a little thing where, you know, people can come and they can meet local people and they can meet international people and have a good time. And of course, the pub scene, of course, is really also the izakayas and the yakitoris and all those little bars and restaurants as well. They really add a lot to the dynamic that exists in a local scene, yeah. Again, as Andy was saying, there are two areas in Osaka: the Kita area, which is around Umeda Osaka Station, which is where we opened our first pub in 2003, the Blarney Stone Umeda. And again, it's a good area to have a pub because there are lots of offices and people after work. They're always looking for somewhere to go and eat and drink. And our second Blarney Stone we opened in Shinsabashi, Minami, and that was in I think 2010. And that business hasn't been as good for us, but it has been great to have the second shop in the city. And again, you can see the picture of it there. The top picture is the picture of the Blarney Stone in Shinsabashi. You can see that it's a nice looking place. We sort of invested a little bit more in it than we invested in Umeda. We didn't have any money. So there you go. We opened the Blarney Stone. Again, I'm still in the teaching industry. I'm still teaching university. I'm teaching mainly online now. So it's been an interesting experience over the last couple of years. But the main reason we opened the Blarney Stone was we saw a gap in the market for Irish pubs. I started my career behind a bar in Murphy's, the one that we talked about a couple of minutes ago. And that's been an amazing, I think, an amazing business and an amazing place for people for many, many years. I think that's nearly 30 years now. So we started again in 2003, so again about 18 years. So we have the main attractions for our pubs are, of course, food, drink, conversations, and our places are a little bit big. The one in Umeda is probably got about 100 seats. So we can get a lot of people in there. So, you know, a lot of people can meet a lot of other people. So it's pretty good for business. But of course, food, good drink. The Kansai area is very famous for its food. And I like to think that we can contribute to this good food experience. in a little bit of a different way. We're not doing, of course, okonomiyaki and takoyaki, of course, but we try to make our food as good as we can. And of course, Guinness. Guinness is an amazing product. And a lot of Japanese people know this brand from being abroad or from wherever, yeah. And of course, I think our biggest attraction is our live music. We try to have live music maybe at least 3, 4 times a week. And again, people want to get up and dance and work off the stress of the work week. And that's a very sort of famous thing, well-known thing in the Blarney Stone. Setting up a setting up a bar. I told Andy I would talk about setting up a bar. Again, the main idea, of course, is to have the business idea and the sort of the marketing behind it. It wasn't that difficult. I have a partner. Martin is an English guy from London, and we both have and had at that time, we had permanent residency. So that allowed us to get loans from the bank, yeah. So we were able to finance the bars, just the two of us. So which was a very important thing. And then the licensing for food service is not such a difficult thing to get. So it makes it very easy to set up a new business in Japan compared to having to spend, and in a lot of other places, you have to spend a lot of money on your license. So we didn't have to do that here, yeah. So we see, what else do we have? Again, the food and the drink and the customers, the food and the drink and the music is what our customers come for. But the atmosphere that we create is a very important part of the Blarney Stone. And we try to make sure we have 3 full-time staff, and we have kept them on over COVID times, which was a little bit of a challenge, but we have done that. But we try to make sure our staff are, again, chatty and can speak, of course, English and Japanese. And our 2 managers are both French, and they're sort of multilingual. And then finally, I'll just talk a little bit about COVID. The last 2 years have been definitely a challenge. And we've been opening and closing and shortened hours and so on. So it's been a little bit tough. We were lucky that 2019 was an amazing year for us because of the Rugby World Cup in Japan. So we were able to have a little bit of savings to carry us over. We also got good support from the Japanese government. We took out a loan, and we had subsidies as well, subsidies which were, again, pretty amazing, and they're still going on. We are hoping, we are going to open. We're going to open on October 1st, so that'll be Friday. And I think it's going to be last order 8:30 and then closing at 9. So a little bit of a mixed up challenge again, but I think we will manage. And that's about it from Blarney Stone in Osaka. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. Andy, there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, and I mean, if there is any questions at the end.
Any questions? Yeah, please.
Tom's the expert in Osaka, rather than me.
Not so sure about that, but anyway.
Okay, I'll move on. I think just have 2 or 3 more slides to the end. Sorry. Ooh. Yeah, just some other Irish activities. Just on the IJCC. I mean, the last couple of years have been quiet, but we, previously as below, we'd have annual dinners and some get-togethers. Looking forward to when COVID settles, and hopefully to build up to the expo as well, that we will have some more activities here, and especially as the Irish connected businesses are all also building. But yeah, if anybody who has Osaka connections and is interested, yeah, please contact me as well. And hopefully we'll have something later on. around the St. Patrick's Day, yeah, I mean, the bar activity is always hopping, I suppose is the word. Very, very busy. There's a lot of other events going on. You know, the various Irish groups have their own events that are happening there. The last couple of years have been quiet for a couple of different reasons, but just the photos at the bottom right here is festival a couple of years ago, St. Patrick's week, the week of St. Patrick, weekend of St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, on the Dotonbury River, we some nice stalls set up. A lot of different groups coming out for that. Hopefully we'll have something now next year as well. Obviously been quite quiet last year, but no, there is a lot of activity. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to talk about the Irish dance music. I wouldn't be able to give it justice as well. There's a lot of very enthusiastic Irish dance and music groups in Osaka. I mean, all over Japan, really. You know, having regular meetups for different events. Very, very active down here. Yeah. I think that, I mean, it feeds in and out. Kyoto as well is very active Irish dance groups and music groups, and you know, everybody goes to each other's events, and so there's a lot going on here for that. Yeah. I liked, I mean, the top right photo there is, I haven't seen that before in Japan. Is a very prominent signboard on the near the Osaka bullet train, the Shinkansen station, an Irish dance studio, which is there. Irish tap dance is there. Which they're very active. Yeah. Usually going to a lot of the events. GA, I mean, previously there was an Osaka, my Kansai GA group. It's always hard at some of the smaller locations that, you know, if one or two the key people move away, the group doesn't continue. But there has been activities in the past, and yeah, it only takes one or two enthusiastic organizers to come into town, and you know, hopefully there'll be something again in the future. That was about it I had for Irish activities. But yeah, if there's any other questions or if anything's missing, please let me know. Please let us know at the end. Yeah. But yeah, if you want to know more, please let me know, and I'll share whatever more detailed information I have on these groups. Okay, then I think we're on the final slide here. Just new topics and future topics in Osaka, more general items. Recently, the Universal Studios has opened up in Nintendo World, which will give a boost tourism there. It might be negated with the Universal Studios opening up in Beijing recently. I'm not sure, but anyway, that's quite interesting. I look forward to checking it out later. As Ambassador Kavanagh mentioned, is the World Expo's coming up, and there's a lot of build up to that. I don't think it's 100%, but you know, it looks like that an integrated resorts casino will be built on the land of the Expo a few years later. It's still just going through the final RFPs and submissions with the government here, and then it's submitted to the local, the national government. I think it's April next year. And that as well, I understand Wakayama, not too far from Osaka, are also preparing a proposal as well. So I think between whatever happens between the two of them, it'll certainly be a boost to the area. Coming up, I mean, because of this, the Expo and the integrated resorts related this, and just the increase of tourism coming in from Asia for the last few years, there's a lot of big hotel and resort developments going on around town. There's quite a few happening at the moment. Yeah. And I mean, to support a lot of these as well, you know, Kansai Airport is renovating, increasing their capacity to deal with this. a new monorail line to support the expo and the integrated resort, which is due on to be put on one of the islands. There's a lot of reclaimed land around Osaka, and it's one of the lesser used islands. Is the planned location, so there's an upgrade of the monorail. It's a fairly long way down the road, but there's a few other train upgrades going on at the moment, which people, I know it's 10 years away, but I know some people are very excited about it. And we'll see about this one, yeah, the linear Shinkansen one, whenever this arrives. But I think it's what, 67 minutes to Tokyo, so it's similar to an airplane. We'll see where we all are when that comes around, yeah. And a lot of other smaller projects going on. That was it. I know time was tight, so I did move through it very fast, probably. But yeah, that was it. If there's any questions or comments, if you think something was missed, please let me or let Tom know. Yeah, thank you very much for your time.
It's great. Thank you very much, Andy and Tom. As always, it's every time we do one of these events, it's fascinating to learn about the connections that we haven't heard about between Ireland and the region, so Ireland and Osaka, and it seems to be a lot of connections across Japanese companies, Irish companies, and obviously the local people based in Osaka. So thank you again very much for taking the time to put that together and educate us. I think as we get back to next year, we'll move from online events to hybrid events. So I think there'll be some opportunities to have in-person hybrid events, 1 or 2 per year in Osaka, with participation from people outside of Osaka as well. And as you say, it's not that far from Tokyo to Osaka right now even. So yeah, look forward to visiting some of your establishments as well, Tom. Sounds like a great reason to get to Osaka. So if we have any questions now from anybody, just feel free to unmute yourself and address the question to Andy or Tom or both. Yeah. So don't be shy. I'm sure there's some questions.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Yeah, this is Oliver Kenny here in Nagoya. Andy, I haven't seen you in a while. You're looking well.
Yes, thanks.
I just want to ask you a little bit about how business is going. Insofar as that every time I go to Nagoya Station, I was probably about once a week that I go to work at the moment at the office. You know yourself now, around Nagoya Station, there are hundreds of restaurants. They're not particularly visible to somebody who doesn't know Nagoya, but they are in the buildings and they are underground and in the underground shopping malls, etc., etc. And every time I go there, some places closed down and a new place is opened up. It seems to be, even though this is in the time of COVID, it is obviously a very, very difficult time for many restaurants. But do you not feel that it could be maybe an opportunity as well?
Yeah, I just have my own experience. Yeah, for restaurants anyway. Luckily my customers took an advantage of COVID, and they've got into delivery, mobile ordering, and all that. So they've done very well. I'm not the more smaller establishments. Tom, I don't get out much anymore. I don't get to walk around town. What's your feeling of around?
Well, we have been closed for the last couple of months. Yeah. So we've had no business, but we get good support from the government, so we're not complaining too much. I think Oliver, I agree with you. There are always opportunities. You have to make sure that you take those opportunities, and we have just finished a new website. I think it's not quite up yet, but again, this website will hopefully connect with customers that we haven't connected with before. and we're hoping that'll help us. And again, the main thing, of course, is always good service, good food, good drink, good entertainment, and you know, happy bartenders. It always works.
Thanks very much for that, Andy and Tom. Any other questions? Thanks for your question, Oliver. If you have any questions, just feel free to unmute and ask.
Yeah, hi Pat. This is Connor. Sorry if I missed the commentary on it. Is there any gathering of Irish communities in the Osaka area? And if so, can you give us a bit of background in relation to that?
Well, I mean, I think there's nothing so organized recently. When we did, we used to do an annual IJCC dinner. I mean, that's been quiet for the last 2 years or so. And less regular events. I mean, the St. Patrick's Day festival, yeah, that's actually been quiet for the last couple of years as well. But I mean, before that, it was regularly every 10 years. Are you sorry, you mean Irish people or just general?
I did mean kind of Irish gatherings. For example, you know, of course, in Tokyo, we have the INJ, the Irish Network Japan, and probably the IJCC and gatherings as such. Yeah,
I mean, there is an INJ Osaka, that, I mean, primarily the St. Patrick's Day event down here, and that there is a lot of smaller groups here as well. I can't remember the initials of all the different groups, but there is, you know, there's very well organized dance and music groups here, yeah, but it's not as many, you know, regulated, organized as much as Tokyo. I think we a lot of the Irish here, we just end up bumping into each other in the Blarney Stone or Murphy's or elsewhere.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Connor. Yeah, I think just on that as well, one of the things we're trying to do with the regional committee in the IJCC is actually have it as a platform to allow groups to connect. So Tom, you know, it's great that you're, during COVID, even though you've been closed, you're going digital or you're upgrading your website. And I think a lot of small businesses are taking the opportunity, but the IJCC would be happy to facilitate, I suppose, with our infrastructure and organization, happy to facilitate gatherings or look at you as a small business and see where we can help. So feel free to reach out to us, the committee, because, you know, we really want to bring the community together and facilitate that. So I look forward to that. Any other questions? I have one myself, but if anybody else would jump in, it would be great. Okay, well, we're waiting for that. Yeah, I think, Andy, I just have one question. You lived in Tokyo for 4 years as well. Like, what's your aside from some of the stuff you mentioned about, you know, sizes of apartments and all that, what's the one standout thing from difference between living in Osaka and living in Tokyo, in your view, as a positive, I suppose, about Osaka? As a positive about
Osaka, I mean, it's a compact city. It's got everything you need. You know, Tokyo's great. I don't pick sides. Tokyo, Osaka, which is the better city. They've got their pluses and minuses. I mean, Tokyo's just it's a mass, though, isn't it? It's, I mean, so many different areas that Tokyo's. I mean, Osaka's more compacted into 2 main areas. That more, I wouldn't say a small community, but it's not as overwhelming as Tokyo can be sometimes.
Okay, very good. And like Ireland, or unlike Ireland, the IDA have a strategy about regionalisation, and I think, you know, have set percentages now of investments to be outside of Dublin, and to be in, I suppose, Waterford, Cork, and the West as well. Is Osaka City doing anything around that with central government to try and promote Osaka as a destination for foreign direct investment, or is it a bit, or is it that organised? I suppose I'd be interested if you know anything on that.
Maybe George, do you know? I'm sorry, I'm not an expert. Sorry on that.
No, it's not to put you on the spot, but George, maybe Jetro, or you've come across it, or you're doing it yourselves. We won't put George on the spot here.
Sorry. No, yeah.
Yeah. So if we don't have any other questions, feel free obviously to reach out to Andy or Tom afterwards, and if you need us to connect you, then that's great, or go direct. The purpose of these events really is to connect, and we'll have breakout rooms coming up soon. But prior to that, just again, thank you, Andy. Thank you, Tom. Great to hear about Osaka. And we'll have a few words from President of the IJCC, Tsuchiya-san now.
Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Dear Ambassador, IJCC members, friends of IJCC, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and warm welcome to our 6 Tales from the Region Osaka. My name is Yoshihiro Tsuchiya. I'm the chairman of IJCC. First of all, I'd like to sincerely thank Ambassador Paul Kavanagh for making warm opening remarks and also continuous great support to IJCC. Thank you so much, Ambassador, always. Arigatou gozaimasu. Also, I'd like to thank our board member, Mr. Andy O Doherty, to arrange and make presentation about Osaka, fantastic presentation. And also Mr. Tom O Neill, the owner of the Blarney Stone Irish Pubs in Osaka, for his great presentation about the Irish pubs and his pubs. Thank you, Andy-san and Tom-san.
Thank you.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you.
Osaka is a very important city for IJCC because we started regional professional membership category, originally targeting Osaka region. And Andy-san has been a great representative in our board for Osaka. I especially like to strengthen activities in Kansai area, and I personally planning to also visit Osaka to, for example, attend the IJCC dinner, or maybe join the embassies or ambassadors visit to Osaka to deepen the relationship of IJCC and the Osaka in future. Also in Osaka, there are many Irish pubs as presented today, and I really surprised that there are more than 12 or 13 unique Irish pubs, not a chain type of Irish pubs like in Tokyo, but all the independent and the very unique pubs. So I really wish to visit, especially the Blarney Stone's Irish Pub in Osaka in near future, hopefully within this year, to enjoy Guinness again. So, and also I learned that there are also very active St. Patrick's activities and music and dancing activities. So Osaka will be continuously very important for IJCC and Ireland as well. As you know, IJCC has been continuing this Tales from the Region online events, and tonight is the 6th one, as I previously mentioned, following Kamaishi, Fukuroi, Nara, Matsue, Wakayama, and now today Osaka. And we will like to continuously expand the region and reach hopefully all prefectures throughout Japan in future. And we would like to continuously reach the regional Irish people or community and strengthen the relationship and network as much as we can. Our regional committee is very active. Actually, we have a regional committee meeting last night and discussing many future plan last night. And especially regional is getting very important for IJCC. In the past, we have not focused so much in the region, but region Japan is very much important for IJCC and maybe for the island in future. So we are discussing activity in our regional committee. And if you're interested, please join the regional committee, which is a great fun for discussing and talking a lot about the regional activities. And finally, I hope you enjoyed the event tonight, and including the networking part afterwards. And again, thank you very much for joining us, and hope to see you in our next event. Thank you very much, and arigatou gozaimashita.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tsuchiya-san, for those words.